Good morning, traders. This is Alex with the StockMatrix program. We're at our X account, kind of my standard intro. This is where I post stuff, and I'll be posting our updates that we do here today on this video on there. You can see I had a little bonus I put out for those that do like these 17 select stocks. You can print this out. It's solar eclipse close, what price, what percentage gain from the previous, right? And that's kind of a trend. That's a, basically solar eclipse divide the year in half, right? So it's a biannual look at it. Here is a portfolio. 35 grand. It was up to about 45 grand. So we did drop back. Some of these, it hasn't changed trends on my system on the StockMatrix program, but it did correct back. So again, that's standard. We're kind of in, is this a high or is this a continuation of the bull trend? So we have only two down, and they were the ones that were up originally. The puts we have on are Coke, right, which makes sense. That's one of those safe plays that went up when everything else went down. ED was one that went up when all the others went down. And so now they're on a downtrend. Now they're not real bearish, but we do have puts on those. So so if they turn long, then it'll be pretty interesting. So anyway, that's the portfolio. You can review it. We have 17, 18 grand that we've taken off, 6, 7% of the 150 grand, right? I just pulled that out of the hat, but I looked it up on Google. That's the standard opening account size for a stock market trade. Now, not mine. I don't have that much. But anyway, not really important, but again, everybody likes percentages. So, all right, let's go to the actual chart. First off, let's go to the statistical page of the StockMatrix program because it is kind of important this period. You can see that basically between yesterday and today, there's quite a bit of timing, and as an index, right, the 17 select stocks, as this index goes, that's important, right? If it breaks, it makes sense because we had these annualers telling us to be careful. If it pauses for a day or two or continues up from here, then that's also important because that tells you that we're in one of those dynamic bull market trends that you really make money on. Tesla's the only one that has two today, one from 2011, one from 2019. So pretty important there as well. All right, let's move on to the actual charts. I'm going to flip through these pretty quick. I closed out the trade here this morning, and then once we review the daily charts, it will be trading because I closed these out before the opening this morning. Today is June 3rd. 2025. So before 8:30 when I did these up charts. So I updated them. Here's the closes. I moved all the stops up. So everything you'll see here is pretty obvious. You can see that the stop got moved up to here on Meta, and here is Coke. That one of the downtrends. Right, it's on the bubble. Right, it wouldn't take much to change that trend. We're in this diamond pattern, so you go with that direction, up or down. Typically on a diamond. Now here's the pooch of the 17 select stocks. It's Google, and I think that's kind of interesting as well. It's just the pooch, so stay out of. I mean, if you're wanting to find something that's going up better, you don't do the pooch because it looks cheap. Just don't do it. Obviously, if you learn your lessons, if you like gold or silver, but you buy silver because it looks cheaper, obviously you've really screwed the pooch. You don't buy the one that looks cheap. There's a reason why it looks cheap. Now, of course, here's Microsoft. Again, just a stone's throw away from making new highs. Stops got moved up to here. We got this bullish gap that we have not tested, which I find pretty fascinating. Here's Amazon. Again, another gap up. It did test it a little bit, didn't fill it. So the stops got moved to here, which are now slightly profitable. Here's Apple, one of the kind of a bull market because it got stopped in at the absolute high. So this will be a pretty good loss if we do get stopped out. It looks like a weak stick. The short-term trend is down. I don't like Apple. Too many people are long that already. So I'm just never a fan of that. When everybody has an Apple in their portfolio, doesn't make sense to me. It's going to go up much. Now, it might go up, but it's going to be draggy. Here's Tesla, again, one of the newer companies in my 17 select stocks, the newest one probably. Anyway, you can see we got the stops here, so we moved it up a little bit, so we are profitable. Unless it gaps below us, we can see we're up against the one-to-one trend line coming off the highs, and it closed like crap yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see how Tesla does on the opening when we look through our daily charts. Here's Lynn, again, super easy bear trap, pop like a son of a gun. You would have doubled, tripled your money in a day if you bought calls on the bear trap. We are kind of caught in this action, and I can see a lot of these stocks kind of staying in a sideways action actually for a while. Here's ED, again, one of the ones that were short, was the bull of bulls, right? Everything went, all the big stocks names were going down when ED was going up. So it was a safe play, and now it's turned into a counter play after the trend has changed to the upside on the bigger stocks. Here's Adobe, again, moved her stops up. Hang on, that's the wife texting me. Anyway, here's the stops got moved up to here. The solar eclipse is here, so it makes sense that we could maybe get stopped out. Kind of fluttering around. One of the weaker ones, Adobe's been a pooch. And again, I think they have some contracts that the Doge team is probably picking up. We're probably paying for a lot of Adobe that we shouldn't be. Maybe. I don't know. I don't care. The system don't care about any of that crap, right? It just follows the line. Here's IBM. Didn't make one, one of them that made new highs. Didn't really rocket up like you'd expect. It did not accelerate. So this pause is interesting to me, not real bullish. Here's BK. Again, closed higher, so that's a bonus than the previous moon period. So that's not bearish either, since we're probably bound and determined to pop these highs out. I can't imagine them leaving those alone. Here is Procter & Gamble, PG. Again, made kind of a trip bottom. Stops are down below the low. 45 days over from this one now is the next target, which is this moon period that we're on, and also 90 degrees over from the high. So this next moon period that we're currently on today, starting today, will be pretty critical for Procter & Gamble. Here's JPM, the diamond. Again, kind of broke above the 1-to-1. So kind of friendly. So I kind of like that. I mean, if you do get stopped out, it's probably over for a while. And if if it breaks that stop level, I think the trend will probably go back down pretty quickly. Here's Coinbase, again, one of the newer companies. I couldn't really find anything else to trade Bitcoin that was option tradable, so I used Coinbase, and it seems to be following okay. But anyway, the stop got raised up to here, into that gap area, which likely I could see us getting stopped out if it tries to fill the gap. Here is Cintas. Again, like if you've been listening to me, even back in here, I thought this was going to continue to go up, take time, make new highs. Probably, but it'd be a grinder, right? You don't buy strength, you don't buy weakness, or sell weakness, excuse me. You buy the dip, sell the rally, stay with the direction of the trend right now, which is up. So that's why the system is getting. See, we got a break even, right? 212.70. So we're right where we got in. So again, we can't really lose on the trade unless it gaps below us. Now here's kind of a bonus chart. If you've been following me, here's the Trump again, the new coin, right? And we kind of picked the bottom on this. And if you traded it and got out, you made some quick money. Because we were calling that this was a potential bottom, 90 degrees over, again, 90 off. Anyway, it made the bottom and popped up. So now, here we are on the 1-to-1, back to the solar eclipse close, which was the low yesterday or whatever. And so to me, this is another potential buy. And I think you can just risk a little bit. You don't have to be a hero. Now, if you're trading a large chunk, you got to find a place to put stops. So that's the advantage of this. You kind of know where it's at, probably 980, something like that. Now, if you're not risking a whole lot, you probably trade, you don't put a whole bunch on, you probably would want to risk down in here as a longer term stop. But anyway, the potential I think is to go back up in here would be and here's the cardinal cross, the 1-to-1 of this square of the range, right? So, we squared the range out on this speed line, which is a 1/4, right? This is a 1/2, which divides the square in half, and this is a 1/1, right? Which takes the square equally out. So anyway, that square worked. We'll see if this square worked. This would be my guess as the potential high. So I don't know if you can trade options on that. I don't know anything about options, but if you could, you'd want to be beyond the June 25th time frame. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to the daily chart. NVIDIA, here's the daily chart with annuals on there. I've been having some problems for my annuals getting deleted off the Ensign. So I use Ensign software, which has been real reliable. Commodities, surf stocks. But you can see we do have a timing in here today, and this is current. We're currently at about 9:23. I think I have a 10-minute delay. So you can see there, had a little pop up. It's on the previous, yeah, that's an old high that I punched in there. So this dotted line is an old high. But anyway, you can see the market, we're 44 days over from the solar eclipse yesterday. So the gap up is kind of interesting. Again, that's a Gann thing, right? It's not calendar days, it's market days. So 44 market days over is pretty key to me. Of course, 66 completes the matrix. Now let's go to Meta. Again, a new high in the swing. Not much to post there. This is one of them. I did have a bear trap. So again, for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction. We had a bear trap low. This is kind of a bull trap high. I'm a little curious. I should be buying puts there, but I don't think I have any money left to do that in my one account. But I like this trade maybe to be more soft. Here's Coke. Now again, just because I say that, I'm not talking the system. I'm talking my opinions, by the way, which don't matter. According, the Matrix don't care about that. But anyway, here's again solar eclipse, 44 days, kind of closed lower, and we acted gapped and have traded lower in the first hour trade. So a little ugly again on Coke in that diamond pattern, right? Here's Google, again, kind of the weak stick. Don't buy the pooch, but you can see that it continues its track down. And again, 44 over and a gap down is a little concerning for the rest of the day. Here's Microsoft, one of the more strengthy ones. You can see it's not in new highs, but I can't imagine them not poking that out. So we did have some dual bullish annuals in here that did kind of stop this little sideways chop. Really nothing in here except for some of the shorter term annuals. Here's Amazon, pretty friendly. This gap up though was stupid. You know, kind of went halfway back, and now it's just acting weak. Not aggressive, so one that I would be a little hesitant on assuming it's going to go up big. Apple, again, the pooch of pooches, creeping now inside its little coil. There's Tesla, pretty strong pop. I mean, it kind of had a head and shouldery bottom, you know, the neckline, all that. So we do have a couple annuals today. So it'll be interesting to see how we close this day out. And actually, tomorrow's trade will be more key on the direction. But you can see it doesn't look bearish. I mean, we broke the uptrend line and it stopped it. Again, you got to break stuff if it's a true correction, and it broke this uptrend line. Did not break a new swing, so not real bearish. Here's Lynn, kind of a massive sideways sling here in the middle of the chart. That low actually came on the 8th. This is not the 7th, so 44 days over will be in here somewhere now. We just got done with 33 days over from the 7th, 8th lows on a lot of these markets, and of course that was a high here on Lynn. Here's ED, pretty soft. Again, one of the made its high the day before the lows, you know, April 7th, right, was the lows and everything. So again, that counter trend, I guess, the safe play has now turned into a little ugliness as the markets look for pretty friendly on the rest of the StockMatrix index charts. Here's Adobe, kind of a pooch of all pooches. If you know me, I've been preaching about these stupid gaps Adobe has. If they do have an AI system, do not buy it. They can't even project their own system. That just drives me insane. In the day of super smart AI, yeah, whatever. You can see, though, we had a little timing yesterday. That was the high back here on the 22nd. That's the X, right? So anyway, pretty important. Here's IBM. 11 days over from this high will be important, which is this June 4th, which will be this week. We did have timing today. Now, it could be a high, it could be low. We don't know. So I will change that and spin it around if it is a high here. Now, we did pop this little swing out and did not accelerate, right? So obvious to me, that's weak. If you should hit that and just go boom, right? It should accelerate. But that concerns me that IBM, which is one of the bulls, is maybe a little overpriced. Again, I'm not a fundamental guy. I don't know anything about the dividend, but that tells me that that might be a little overpriced. We should accelerate it, and we did not. So the rest of the day should be a little weakish on IBM. Again, here was 33 days over from this 7th low, was this low. And so now 44 is the next zone, which is on June 9th. Here's BK, one of the strengths, and it was the safer play. But April 7th was a low here as well. So I don't know. It's it's a bank stock. New York banks are pretty tricky anyway. You can see 44 over from the solar was this low, and so the next zone is 55 on the next solar clips. 55 calendar day comes in there. Let's drag this over. So it'll be June 17th, and we have June 10th here off the low. So Procter & Gamble, again, kind of broke the uptrend line. You know, if you drew a line in here. So pretty weak. Again, it should accelerate here. So it should be a negative day. If it isn't a real bad negative day since we broke the uptrend line, I just think it's probably a corrective move, probably. Here's JPM. Again, this correction is non-existent, which is bullish, by the way. We're 11 days over from this high market days, which is pretty key. We had timing coming in here. This break is so weak that makes me pretty bullish. I mean, I think new highs, at least swing highs, will be pretty obvious in my cone of existence. Here is the Coinbase. Again, had a high, kind of broke the uptrend line, but again, pretty minor. It looks pretty friendly. Here's Cintas, the creepers. I think this is going to continue to be a creeper. Now, we did have this high come in, which was this low here, the 30th. That's that circle there. So again, we had future annual, right? Since it happened this year, it's pretty tricky. But yeah, the 30th, you watch every 30th, you can see I've got it marked here. It'll be pretty important. Now, also the 7th, right? So that's the next one coming up. All right, I'm going to sign off. Again, not much to report. Just follow the trends. Again, and good luck. Use your logic. Don't get greedy. Stay out of the pooches. Stay with the champions. Have a great rest of your trading week.